So Ethan, we've been planting trees since from municipal tree planting large scale since 2008. When did you come on and start managing the projects and just some of the projects?
So I came on with American Lawn and Landscape in 17, and then I started managing in 21, 20 or 21.
Okay.
I think 21 was the first season that I really took over all of the tree project management, which that entails ordering the trees, finding locations, um, specking out large scale plantings, meeting with our forestry departments at our municipalities. Um,
Now, do you actually do some of the spacing and design stuff, or like some of the cultivar selection? Is there a planting palette? I mean, how does that work?
yeah,
What are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish?
so I will do all of that. So I'll look at an area and say what trees are thriving in an existing planted area. So especially in areas where your soil is just not great, and you need drought tolerant trees. You've got cars going past at 55, 60 miles per hour that are just going to dry out and roast anything. So we look at parkways, we look at boulevards, we look at subdivisions, and we say what has done well here in the past, and we try to select trees that are going to do well for the areas that we're in. And we also have a spec list that we go off of trees that were already given, were granted permission to plant, and that lets us have something to start.
Um, so what are we doing here? What are we doing on this? This is a parkway, and what is the spacing that you're doing here?
So we're on this particular parkway, and they had come in when they designed this parkway and really kind of focused on the median. And I think that they would have done an initial planning. I don't know the history on this parkway specifically, but there were only a few trees that were left, and the trees that were left were our hot wings maples. And there were maybe in this spread that we're putting in, I think 77 trees.
Okay.
We went with Princeton elm.
And you're trying to utilize the same types of trees as we go down so
Right.
that the canopy all kind of looks the same. Is that the idea behind it?
Correct. So you're going 55 miles an hour, and if you shift between tree varieties,
Right.
you're going to be like, what the heck just happened with our
Right.
canopy? So we went with a large, we want the trees to match on both sides of the parkway, and we want the spacing to be the same on the parkway. And so we went with about 60 feet in between trees and light poles on this planting in
Okay.
particular.
And talk to me about the procurement process. How do we get these trees? Are these trees just like we got to go get them, or you're actually going and picking these out? I mean, the different cultivars. What does that look like? Are we buying local, or what are we doing there?
Right, so we have a few different suppliers, and my job specifically is to reach out to our nurseries, the people that grow the trees, and say, what do you have available? Here's my list. Here's what I'm looking for. I kind of always have an idea of trees that I want to use, based on the list that I'm given, also based on what I'm seeing, succeed where we're at. So I will reach out with them, and they'll provide me with an availability list. I will go to some of the nurseries that are local here and actually walk around with the grower and say, yeah, these look fantastic.
So a lot of what you're doing is buying local. I mean,
Right.
you're finding local suppliers and trees that are grown locally,
Right.
and then purchasing from those, and then actually going and doing site visits and
Correct. So if you
yeah.
get a local tree that they started it out, in the ground, maybe they started it as a seedling, or maybe they started it out as a whip,
Yep. Yep.
and they grew it locally, well,
It's used to
chances
these
are it's going to
conditions.
survive.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what we want to see. We don't want to bring something in from a totally different area and say, hopefully this will make it. And we have a warranty process on these. So
Okay.
the municipalities aren't just stuck with whatever we put in the ground, the cheapest tree, B grade trees. That's not what they're going to get. So we're really driven to push to find the best quality and to be able to provide something that is going to be drought tolerant, is going to do well in our soil types. And they have 18 months with us, and we also water
How do you
in
how
that
do, how,
process.
how do you track that? I mean, how do you're putting these out here? Are some of these going in neighborhoods, and then you have? I mean, how many of these different things will you have in a season just with one municipality, for instance? These different projects.
We'll have, yeah, we'll have multiple parkways. We'll have
Like two subdivisions or like 15 subdivisions?
yeah, 15
Okay.
subdivisions. Depending on budget, we'll have, any. I think this year we're set to about 2,500 trees,
How
roughly.
how do you? I mean, once you get all these planted, how do you know where they are for watering? How do you know where they are for for the warranty process and tracking and seeing which trees are doing great and which trees are failing according to variety? You know.
Right. So some municipalities they're still spreadsheet, and they're
Okay.
you're
Yep.
looking at a spreadsheet. You're looking at and the data is harder to collect. And then other municipalities, it's a software system that maps them, and you can go in and you can plug in a dot in your location specifically. You can put tree type, width of the area that you're planting the tree. You can have different layers that say we need to remove these stakes when it's time. We need to water this tree, and
Okay.
then the guys in the field can complete those tasks based on that, based on whatever they're given on that software system, and it's updated constantly, and it is GPS tracking, so you know where you're at on it.
How many times are you on a date with your wife? And like, oh, I planted that right there. I was over here, like over here. Let's go check on this real quick. How often does that happen?
Oh, it's more times than she can count. I tell the kids all the time, look down this street. Dad planted all those trees. We were in New York City, and at the memorial for the World Trade Center, they
Okay.
had 400 survivor tree planted. And I said, this is Quercus bicolor. And my wife's like, are you telling me the scientific name of a tree right now? I was like, yeah, these are swamp white oaks. And I said, look how they got them planted, and they've got all of these stones that are around them, bricks. And they were only maybe 3 feet by 3 feet squares. And as the trees were getting bigger, they would
They would just
enlarge.
expand it
Yeah.
out.
And so absolutely
Man.
wild. The oak is sitting in these deep roots, and
Uh-huh.
it's not surface roots on the oak, so
Right.
it's going deep
Right,
and
right.
penetrating deep in the soil. And so, yeah, she wasn't flattered, but
You're impressed.
yeah, it's like
That's awesome. You talked about surface roots there for just a minute. Are there certain trees that are more prone to be on the surface? Certain trees that are more prone to drop their roots down? How does that work?
yeah, and some of that goes in with what our spec list that we're given.
Okay, so they're already like, okay,
they're-
here's kind of like
yes.
the planting palette of what they want to use. Let's negotiate that and work that
Right.
for the different areas. Obviously, we wouldn't want something that's a huge tree in a really narrow area if there was a sidewalk or something like
Correct.
that.
So that's one of the things that we have to watch for. So
Okay.
we're given so in front of your home, and you've got your sidewalk, and then you've got your curb, and you've got all your utilities, you've got your water, you've got your gas. And so our main job in locating, parkways is nice. There's nothing.
It's all
there.
open.
Right.
It's all open.
Nobody's
You just
run
fly.
Google Fiber right through the middle, right?
Right, right.
But when we come in front of your home,
That's where everything is. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking Google Fiber, water,
Yeah.
telephone, all
and
of
then
that
there's
stuff
a
right there.
sidewalk, and so we spec out if it's between the curb and the sidewalk. If it's 5 feet, that is going to be a small variety. So it's going to be your redbud, your dogwoods, your service berries, and so I try to go with. There's a hot wings maple in that, but I try to find more variety than just a standard redbud. I'll do merlot.
Okay.
I'll do a white bud.
Okay.
I'll do a June snow dogwood, a service berry, hot wings maple. So those are kind of our key smalls. And then if we go up to 6 feet, we can go a medium tree. I should
6 feet.
specify
6 feet is the tree lawn width between the sidewalk and the. So if it's a little bit wider, then you can go with a larger tree
And
there,
so-
just so that it's.
yeah.
Yeah.
And your small trees, they're going to max out at like 30 feet tall.
Okay.
And then your mediums are going to be about 40, and then your large tree varieties are going to be 50 plus.
Okay.
And so we have to spec all of that out, and then we need to make sure we're planting away from your fire hydrants, away from your driveway, away from your water main, and they have specs on all of those.
Right.
And so
to
that
make it all fit.
that can eliminate locations, and that
Right.
makes finding locations difficult sometimes.
Talk to me about watering. So you're putting in, you said like 2,500 trees a year. You know, we have a hard time communicating sometimes with homeowners how to water these trees. You're watering 2,500 trees
Right.
throughout the city and managing that. How does that, how is that managed? First off, when is the tree planting season? I
Okay.
guess that's the first question. Everybody thinks springtime. They think, oh, the grass is greening up. This is the time to plant. When is the tree planting season? Why do we do it that way? And then how do we manage like when it needs to be watered and when it doesn't need to be watered?
Right. So that gets tricky. So our tree planting season is really the off season. So it's when your tree is dormant. It's when it is
Okay.
not leafed out. And so we plant from when the leaves drop around November, end of October, beginning of November, until we have a set target date, and we plant trees all year long for our landscapes. But on large scale, we stop April 1st.
Okay.
Because that does not give the tree enough time to have moisture around the soil, around the roots for them to get established before you get the August, actually June, July, August heat and drought that hits in our area. And so those are our planting, that's our planting width, our time.
That's our window.
That's our
Yeah.
window.
Yeah.
So for watering, we have to watch the entire Kansas City area that we're in.
Right.
We have to say, yeah, it rained down south, but up north it's still bone dry. And so that's really a lot of our guys communicating. That's calling someone the morning of a storm and saying, hey, what did you get down there? I'm not seeing anything up here. That's going out with a shovel and digging and testing areas and seeing if we've reached saturation. So that's kind of chasing your tail a little bit is what it feels like. But when we go out and water, we send out a large truck with about, I don't remember how many, it's
1,100, 1,300 gallons. Yep.
And those guys go out and they've got a pump on that truck and they've got a 20-foot hose and they go and, if you can see behind us here, that's a green bag. That is not to protect from deer. That is not just to look silly. It's our water bag. And so it holds about 20 gallons and it has a slip in the top. And so you stick that in there. The bad thing about the bags is they will only water the section that they're sitting on. They won't really hit the back half of that. So what our guys do in the field when they water, we will tell them to water around their tree. I usually do about 7 to 8
circles
passes around it. And when it's super dry, soil never takes moisture. It just sheds off. And so you are encouraging that tree to take the moisture and then you fill your bag. And then the other thing, they'll fill that. We're almost about once a week when we're in drought season. I mean, they're once a week to every 2 weeks.
And in our area, we may water a couple times in the winter time just to kind of get, during dry periods and to kind of get the soil down around the root system. But then once season gets here, it's really just kind of managing. We had 6 weeks of wet and then all of a sudden it's just gotten dry and we're watching it saying, okay, next week we're going to need to go watering. And then we may be watering for 3 or 4 weeks consecutively. And as soon as we finish one cycle,
we're right back to the start again.
Starting back again. And I think you even have some specific areas you kind of micromanage.
We do.
Parkways that have a lot of wind where you're like, you know what, we need to make sure that we're hitting that at the beginning of the cycle and the end of the cycle, almost double hitting that.
Yeah, if it's a narrow parkway where, like on this one, the median is large. The trees, they're not getting as much wind.
They're not getting as much wind as you're saying. Okay.
But if it's a narrow parkway, it's like, they're getting hit by traffic on the right side of the road and the left side of the road, and they need to be babied.
Yeah. What are some of the ways you mitigate really bad soil? I mean, are we trying to find cultivars that just don't care, that just grow? I mean, they're native to this area. Are we trying to like take that old soil out? How do we mitigate that? What does that look like as far as on a scale like this?
Yeah, we've done that in the past where we've had soil that was just trash you dig the hole, you haul the old soil off, and you bring in new soil. But for the most part, we try to find trees that are going to survive.
They grow in this soil. I mean, it's like looking at all the woods around us over here and saying, you know what, it grows great in clay, in the nasty clay soil that we have.
And some of the soil changes, when they come and put in a parkway, there may be AB3, there may be aggregate. We dug a hole for a tree the other day and found, 6 sticks of rebar. And it's like, okay, well, that wasn't there.
You don't need that for an iron supplement for the
Maybe
tree.
leave a couple in there. So that's where the check, when a parkway's done or a neighborhood's done, that's when my survey becomes super important. What is thriving? Not just what's, because the trees that aren't thriving, they're going to be gone. They're going to be blown over. They'll have snapped off when when the tree died. And you're talking a 1.5 inch to a 2 inch caliber tree, and so they're not.
And you're
gonna
saying
take
that
it.
like when you come through, you're kind of looking at the trees that have died too, according to which variety, and saying,
Correct.
man, I'm seeing a lot of this one variety that just keeps coming up on this list of trees that have died.
And we'll do that with our warranty list. And so when I plant trees in a in a large section in a subdivision, or just as a whole, let's say I had planted 25 to 40 of a variety and only 6 survive. Well, we're going to have questions. One, was it planted correctly? And the way we do that is we note in that who our planters are. So we can go back and say, Daniel is really planting a lot of trees that are dying. Okay, is that a Daniel problem?
Right.
Or is that the variety problem?
Right,
So
right,
that's,
but you can see
we
who did that.
Yeah, we can eliminate human error and make sure our trees are planted right. And then we can say, okay, is it the variety? And then some of that comes with, talking to the growers. We had the black gum, for instance, that
The black Tupelo,
the black Tupelo,
Yep.
that is a tree that we have a really hard time keeping alive.
and it's a fantastic tree.
It's a
I mean,
beautiful
you
tree.
look at the trees
Yeah.
once they're established, and it's fantastic. They're wonderful.
And
they're a
they
medium-sized
are-
tree.
yeah, and
Great fall color.
They're kind of deceiving because they're alive on some of our parkways. Well, it's like they have a hard time getting established, and they don't like our winters when they're young. And if you started it from a seed and grew it, you would have more success, I think. But one of the ways that we can get around that is to not dig it, to not have the growers dig it in the winter.
Yep, in the fall. Yeah.
When they cut those roots are then exposed. It's like a wound on your skin, and then you get that freezing temperatures around there. When we have our trees, we heal them in with mulch, and that mulch keeps our trees at a temperature that
at our holding yard.
at our holding yard.
Yeah,
It
so we'll
keeps
bring
them-
in. So how do you like? What type of quantities when you're talking about bringing in trees? What does that look like as far as the holding yard and stuff like that? How does that fluctuate? And like numerically, like are we talking? That's a lot of trees just for this thing. And you just having the suppliers bring them straight here, or what does that look like?
We bring them specifically to our holding yard, and our holding yard could hold 1,500 trees.
And it'll fluctuate that violently from, okay, August to it fluctuates up and then it drops right back down as you're consuming those and utilizing those.
Right.
And then you're even placing an order in January, February to kind of finish off the plantings for the year.
Yeah, so we'll bring in around 160 per truckload on a semi,
Okay.
flatbed semi, and then we will unload that at our shop with our Bobcat and our tree jaws, and then we'll set them in rows specifically with their tree types and variety sizes, so large, medium, or small. That way the guys can know this pile over here is medium, small, or large. And then we'll heal them in mulch, and that just gives them that warmth. They'll still freeze a little bit, but they won't be.
They're not going to have the winter damage.
Correct.
Okay.
It helps to mitigate that. So
And it keeps them moist too.
On the Tupelo, the growers just say don't dig until spring.
So just don't dig them in the fall.
In the fall,
and then in the springtime you can dig them, and then they'll take off and do fine, and they'll have the whole season to kind of establish their root system
and
before
they're not fighting
winter.
Arctic. Yeah, they're not fighting your Arctic frost that we sometimes get here in Missouri.
Yep. So let's switch gears. So what do you do outside of the tree planting season with American Lawn and Landscape? Like, what does that look like for you? What does American Lawn and Landscape look like outside of the tree planting season?
So outside of the tree planting season, I started out as an installer.
Okay.
Installing landscapes, and I did that for 5-6 years.
Okay.
I think this is my 7th summer.
Okay.
So, and then just recently switched over to doing all of our residential sales and designs.
Yep.
So I will meet with the client. I will talk to them about their ideas. I will work up a design. I will give them a quote for that design, and then I will lay out that project for our guys.
Okay.
Daniel and I are big proponents of still getting our muscles out there and getting. Daniel likes to say, "Hey, come on, we can't get old on this."
I need them.
Yeah.
I need the
And
muscles. I
so,
need the workout.
so there's sometimes
We
I'll
get
pop
paid. We
in.
get paid to go to the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't pay to go to the
Yeah.
gym. We get paid to go to the gym.
So there's times that I'll go out and I'll lay out the project with the guys and I'll say, "Hey, I still got it. I'll
Right.
throw these trees in the ground." And
Okay. So when you meet with a client, are they talking about drainage? Are they talking about landscape design? Are they talking about, is it more just trees? Is it like all of, hardscape? I mean, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, all of the above. And so I feel like most of our calls on our really great landscapes start out with a drainage issue. Like we've had several houses where, it started out with a leaky basement and the foundation company's like, really, it's just a landscape issue. It's getting the soil sloping away from the house. And then they have a blast working with us and you
Right.
figure out we kind of call it like being a surgeon, right? And so we're saying we're going to give you the best,
Oh, the options.
the
Yep.
best option for the least amount of
Invasive procedure.
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right.
And then you build trust with your clients, and then they say, hey, we've got a budget to play with. Can you?
What can you come up with?
Yeah. Can you make the front of our house look amazing?
I know for me, one thing that I absolutely love is showing up to a customer's house and they're talking to me about the ideas and what they're thinking, and this could go over here and that could go over there, and just listening and going through all that stuff. And then as they're listening, my brain is just rolling. I'm like seeing, okay, what if we did this here, and what if we did that there, and what if we changed this? And so I just love, and then showing up, 6 weeks later, and it's done, and it's like, wow, that looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
And then your 2 year later visit is
Yes.
always really fun.
Yes.
Your perennials are at their full size.
Right. Right. Handing that project off to the homeowner, saying, okay, now you own this, you got this, you can take this, and then seeing what they do with it and seeing the colors when we come back. So, yeah, that's fantastic. So are you actually, you said you might be on the crew sometimes. Usually you're managing, you're running around, talking to different people, picking up materials, picking out plant material, making sure that all that stuff is there. And then just following up with the crews, making sure they got everything completed, and the homeowners and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we are really blessed with a really good group of guys that
Yep.
are amazing, and they really take pride in what they do. And so a lot of that, you don't have to be there holding their hand all the time and saying, I can say, hey, here's your list of perennials, here's my idea. But you guys, you can kind of play with it, and it gives them a sense of ownership.
Yes.
And you get a better product that way. And so we've done one of the things that we've done with American Lawn that I really love is we have a large shop, we have a large holding area, and so we keep a lot of our decorative rock, our edging, our plants, our mulch, our boulders, and so that saves on time. Nobody has to go around and go shopping, fuel, wear and tear on trucks, trailers, all of that. And so there's not so much of that I have to do. You give the guys a load list in the morning and it's all right there at the shop, and they head out the door, and by 9 o'clock they've got shovels in the ground.
You talked about boulders. That's one of the things that I get so excited about is, you look at this perfectly flat landscape and you're like, okay, I could do this with the different plants. But when you start bringing that alive with elevation interest and saying, okay, we could slope that up and put a boulder on this area. The other thing that I'm really excited about is not using as many shrubs. In the 90s and 2000s, it was just a lot of boxwoods and a lot of yews and a lot of hedges and just a lot of bushes that every year they would get larger. And you try to walk away from that landscape design and you hand that off to the homeowner and like, okay, now it's not ever supposed to get any bigger than this right here. And they're like, yeah, I got it. And you come back 7 years later and it's like that. And it's like, what happened? And they're like, the bushes kept getting bigger. The ornamental grasses, when I say ornamental grasses, I know people just cringe because the only one that we know, the only one they've ever known is like maiden grass, which is like humongous.
And their uncle lit it on fire one time and, they had a bad experience with it.
That's exactly right. So ornamental grasses, again, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the sustainable plants that are native to this area.
Yeah.
Little blue stem grass is one of my very favorites.
Yeah,
it's
knee-high.
That's all it does. And so the same thing kind of with the perennials is you can put that out. Your client could go on vacation until August or September and come back and they only get that tall. They never.
Not gonna spread
the
off.
same thing with your black-eyed Susans, with your catmint. The lift,
Yarrow's a new one that we got that
I
we
love
really
that.
are loving. It
That's
gives us that beautiful texture in the leaves and just a pop of yellow or
and it's
red.
bomb proof. There's not a
Yeah.
bug that bothers it. It stays small. It stays compact. Yeah, I just love as much as we can. We still do some boxwoods and still do some yews and things
Yeah.
like that. There's still the use for that.
But it's not over. We we're one of the odd landscape companies that Daniel's always saying more free Saturdays, and so if I can landscape your house and not have a ton of maintenance, if I wouldn't want to do it at my house,
Yep,
I don't want to do it at yours unless the customer, and that's where the meeting and feeling it
that's
out.
right.
Some of our customers are inclined that way. They've got a green thumb. They want more plants. They
I'd
want more
say
natural beds.
I'd say
And
5% of our customers. You
right.
talk to them and you're like, okay, how much do you enjoy landscape? And most of them are like,
No,
I don't want to do
They
it.
always say low maintenance
That's
or no
that's right.
maintenance, and I'm like, well, there's no such thing as no maintenance, but
Right,
low
but we can do
maintenance
really
can
low
do.
maintenance,
Yeah.
right? And then we have 5% that are like, this is what I do. This is what I enjoy. I love being out here. I love being out here with my husband or whatever, and we just take our little wagon and we run around doing everything. And those are fun to do as well.
They are really fun.
But those are
Yeah.
definitely a totally different client than 90% of what we have.
Right.
So, yeah, that's fantastic. Um, Anything else that I'm not thinking of that we need to? Any questions you have for me?
Yeah. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you got this whole thing started. You've been doing this since what year was it when you started?
Oh my gosh. 1994 officially,
Okay.
but
I
I'd
was
already been
2.
doing it like 6 years by then, like mowing grass, and we never would have guessed, that it was going to be where it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being thankful and answering the phone when it rings and trying to do a fantastic job and just going to the next thing. And I've always heard people talking about like, okay, you need to have a 3-year goal and a 5-year goal and a 7-year goal. And I always just say, I don't know how to attain that. I just want to be thankful for where we're at and do a great job. And so it's been so neat, and to see how it's changed and grown. And you commented earlier about the guys, and that is really the breath of fresh air to me, is like the guys, and they are phenomenal, and they have great attitudes and overcoming attitudes. So in anything you're going to run into, like, oh, I got a flat tire, or I got this, or I can't find the keys, or that's just stuff. But the guys they're just amazing at, like, you know what, let's get it done. And I love what you and I both say, like, okay, give me my list. What do I need to do to get home and see my family?
Exactly.
Right? And it's like, okay, this is what I got to do, and I'm going to do a great job. You're always talking about being above reproach in everything we do, because in any industry, in anything we do, there's ways to take shortcuts. There's different things that you can do, like sweep it under the rug, and that's kind of the conversation that we have a lot, is like, look, we need to be completely above reproach.
Right.
Like you said earlier, if you're not going to do it at your house, you're not going to go propose all kinds of extravagant landscape to somebody that is already not doing a good job with their maintaining their landscape to begin with, because all they're going to do is, we're going to expand what they're already not taking care of. And so it's like, you're already not taking care of it. Let's just minimize it and try to keep it really easy to take care of. So yeah, neat stuff. Well, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.